Some of the most important lessons that I learned in the well drilling industry. And I often tell my staff when I'm talking with them today, the well driller's perspective or from the school of well drilling. And it's clear, it's logical, but it also has a focus on customer service, that you take care of people and you want them to call you back. And as a Christian, I've made this saying that the quality of our work is the platform of our witness. So that ethos has been a big part of who we are and what we do. We want to do a job with excellence. And as Christians, I think that's even more important. I don't want to have a false platform while we're there. We're there, it's a real reason. We're feeding, we're doing shelter, we're doing emergency response. It's quality work, and I want us to be known for those things.
Welcome to Well Coach, the podcast where we talk about how people, sales, profit, and self come together to grow a business that actually works. I'm Chris Weinberg. I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs into their highest productivity zone by helping them get just corporate enough to lead with clarity, build with purpose, and scale with confidence. Let's dive in. Hey team, welcome back to the Well Coach podcast. You're in for a treat today. I've got Ken Isaacs, who is the Vice President of Programs and Government Relations at Samaritan's Purse. What an organization. They are one of the world's, if not the world's most trusted advisor and responders to crises around the world. Over the past 35 years, Ken, what a journey. He has led emergency relief efforts in over 150 countries. From the genocide in Rwanda to COVID field hospitals all over the place, from Bosnia to Baghdad. He's been face to face with presidents, warlords, every cast of character that you can possibly imagine, and has navigated that beautifully and has quite a story to tell. He's got a new book out, and it's called Running to the Fire, Helping in Jesus' Name. This is not just about humanitarian work. This is going to be a masterclass in leadership under pressure. We all go through pressure as leaders, and man, this guy has forged his steel, running through it for a long, long time, and it's going to be a treat to hear this journey. Started out as a blue-collar well driller with no formal training to become one of the world's foremost crisis leaders. We're going to learn lessons today about making critical decisions in high-stakes environments, building trust and resilience in teams under extreme stress, leading with conviction and compassion in the face of chaos, and saying yes to growth and responsibility when lots of us would like to tuck our tail and run. So Ken, with all that, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to be with you.
I can't wait to dive into this. You started as a well driller well before stepping into global disaster zones. Take us to the first moment that you felt called to do something more.
In 1984, I went to Boone Rentals to rent a truck with my brother. And when I went in, the man that owned the place said, hey, I was at church last night and there was a missionary guy there and he said they needed well drillers in Africa. And if you wanted to go, I would help you. I'd send you. And I thought, okay, I got to go get the truck. And I wasn't on that same wavelength. Later, 5 minutes later, he brought Franklin Graham back and introduced him to me. So that was Franklin in my first meeting. But what did happen, I looked up that missionary, talked to him. I got the bug to go. I went to Togo. I was there for a month. And during that month, Chris, I just felt like God was calling me to the world. And when I came back home and I told my wife, she looked at me and are you losing your mind? Have you lost your mind? What's going on with you? And all I could say is, I don't know, honey, but I'm just telling you, I feel called to the world. So I prayed about it for 2 years. And eventually we drilled a well at Franklin's house. And about a year after that, he called me and asked me for advice on a drilling program to be established in Ethiopia. And my family and I ended up going there. And that was how all of this opened. And here I am today now talking to you.
Wow. What a start and what a journey. And early in 84, we're drilling the wells, and here comes this calling, and that starts shaping your leadership skill, I would guess, whether that's self-leadership or people are now leaning on your expertise. And what a monumental shift you started going through at that point.
It was a monumental shift, but some of the most important lessons that I learned in the well drilling industry. And I often tell my staff when I'm talking with them today, the well driller's perspective or from the school of well drilling. And it's clear, it's logical, but it also has a focus on customer service, that you take care of people and you want them to call you back. And as a Christian, I've made this saying that the quality of our work is the platform of our witness. But the theme in that actually came from my 22 years in private business as a well driller. I wanted the customer to call me back when he needed me. And if I didn't deliver good service, that wouldn't happen. So that ethos has been a big part of who we are and what we do. We want to do a job with excellence. And as Christians, I think that's even more important. I don't want to have a false platform while we're there. We're there. It's a real reason. We're feeding. We're doing shelter. We're doing emergency response. It's quality work. And I want us to be known for those things.
Amazing. Yeah, what a business lesson. Go do the right thing, and people will generally call you back. And that, yes, I love that you said that you're taking lessons from all the way back to those early days when you were a youngster. And I still do that too. The very first place I worked out of college taught me some really good blocking, tackling, and do the right thing and get the customer's response. And I still carry some of those very same practices today. So it's neat that you say that too. You've come across quite a cast of characters in your life: presidents, warlords, refugees. What have you learned about human dignity through all of that? You've met people at different levels of the org chart, up and down.
Yeah.
What have you learned about human dignity through all of those experiences?
Well, that's a good question. And when human dignity is a thing in a way it's sort of difficult to articulate. What is it? And it's not exactly a tangible thing, but when you see somebody have their dignity stripped from them, it can be a deeply emotional thing. And allowing people to have dignity in their life is very important. And I'll tell you a story. I was in Darfur. This was back around 2007. And I went out to a place, Fashir, where there's a massacre going on right now. This is in international news. I wanted to meet with the men of the community. At this time, I was working for the U.S. government for a while. And they brought about, maybe 200 men into a tent with me. And these guys are wearing, Muslim guys wearing robes and traditional clothing. Tough men. And they started telling me about how their dignity had been stripped because their women had been violated. And those men, it was a tear fest, and it was emotional for all of us. And there was, physical injury, but the thing that troubled me the most was that their dignity had been stripped from them. They had no position of respect in the community and no position of respect in the eyes of their enemy. So human dignity is very important. I've also learned that as a blue-collar guy, as a well driller, I don't have Georgetown University degrees, but I can go brief a leader of a foreign country. And we have more inner self-worth than oftentimes we think we do. We need to learn how to tap that and be confident in ourselves. And so you want to conduct yourself with dignity, right?
Yeah, what a lesson that is, especially in today's world where everything is fast and instant gratification and social media and judgy and all of that. And to your point, no one should determine your self-worth other than you and the Lord. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has a special gift, and we're so pitted against each other, or so many fake things out there to look at. But that message that you say is a beautiful one, that everybody's got a lot in their horse in their tank to give.
Yeah.
That degree doesn't matter. How about when you're leading teams through such chaos? Like, what does leadership crisis actually demand? And how do you lead teams when everybody is scared or exhausted or overwhelmed? how do you show up as a leader? What does that demand? What kind of leadership chops or skills do you have to employ when there's chaos abound?
That gets into a lot of different issues. These are good questions. You've obviously thought this through. So leadership in disaster requires making decisions that are going to affect people's lives, maybe even their survival, when you have limited information. And you have to have some principles, not like you've got a formula for performance, but I think that it's important to don't let the pursuit of excellence become the enemy of the good. If there's a lot of people that are hurt and it's raining, and in Jamaica right now, the roofs are blown off, we don't need to know the perfect thing. We need to do the obviously good thing, and we need to do it quickly. And you mentioned the issue of fear. But we all have fear. In fact, I'm drinking from a John Wayne cup right now. And inside the lip here, it says, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. And I love that saying, but I have fear. But to me, the thing is, once I've made a decision that I'm going to go and pursue an objective, I don't want my fear to be the thing that stops me. So I have to work through the fear. Another thing, Chris, that's very important, I would never, and I do never ask anybody to go anywhere, to do anything that I haven't and wouldn't go do myself. And whether that's digging a ditch, or whether that's going into a war zone in Ukraine, or whether that's going into an area of genocide. And I find that as a leadership model, it's important to have the humility to do the hard things yourself. And that sets an example for people. So if they see me going to the place of great suffering, if they see me helping people, they will follow me. That's what leaders do. And they go and others follow. So I don't use a system of authority. I use a system of, hey, I'm going to go do this. You guys, let's go do this. And that's worked pretty good for me.
Leader sets the pace for the pack.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you're in these really rough conditions. Folks are nervous and scared. To your point, not to the point of paralyzation. It's okay to be nervous, but as long as it's not stopping you from acting. And now you've got to go build trust. So how do you learn to build trust so quickly in places where fear and suspicion can run very high?
Well, it depends on who you need to build the trust with, but I'm a big believer in integrity. And integrity is from the word integer, a single digit. You're one person, that same person all the way around. And so if I'm having a talk with you today, and I'm going to talk with somebody else tomorrow, I don't want to be a different person. I want to be the same person. But I cultivate trust in people and build relationships. And I think that this is important going into war zones. I have another little saying. I have a lot of these sayings. If you're around people with guns, it's a good idea if they're your friends. And and we're frequently around people with a lot of guns. And but now if you're working with two sides of a conflict, if you can build trust on both sides, and I pursue that, then you're in a good position. When both sides trust you and know that you won't break your word to them and that you're not going to deceive them, or that's extremely important. So I think building the trust is the key to it.
Is the lesson for leaders there, just say what you're going to do what you're going to say, maintain consistency, and don't change who you are based on the audience you're in front of?
Yes, that's right. Can I tell you another story?
For sure.
So in 2001, I went to Afghanistan. It was my second trip there, and this was right after 9/11. And I went up into Mazar-e Sharif, and I wanted to meet the head of the Northern Alliance. The U.S. was just starting to move in and attack the Taliban. And so I go to meet this guy, He's got a beard down to his belt. He's a Mujahideen general, and his name is Muhammad Atta. And so I'm sitting in his palatial living room with the sort of thrones all around the wall. And I told him that, General, we would like to come and to help your people. And I said, we can drill wells, we can provide medical care. I told him some things that we could do, and he said, that's good, please come. And I felt like it was very important that I told him I was a Christian. And I said, if this is going to be a problem, General, let me know right now and I'll leave, because I don't want to make a problem for you. And he said, it's not a problem, you're welcome. And we stayed there for 7 years. And worked, helped thousands of people. But when he said, you're welcome, he was extending through his code of honor. It's more than just, like, come on in. It's like, you're in my area. And, but if I hadn't have shown that transparency, and then he found out later, he would always wonder, why didn't that guy tell me? I can't trust that guy. And so that has informed a lot of my decisions, that particular story has, and the outcome from it. So I believe honesty, integrity, transparency, all of the old school principles, they work.
You're right. The old school principles do work. It's funny that you mentioned that. Just a small tangent, when I'm coaching folks in business or even youngsters, they'll often say, what has changed through the course of time? And I will always tell them the fundamentals of being a good person and running a business with clarity and all the good basic business principles, they all still exist. The only thing that's really changed in my eyes is the speed at which things happen and technology. Yeah. But the good principles of block, tackle, be honest, tell them what you got, be consistent, those are the building blocks, right? And so many young people, and today, because we're taught this way, we're fed this thing of this instant gratification, people don't fall on top of mountains. I mean, it's the consistency of showing up that builds that trust over time, which you have done so beautifully. I mean, really, your story you should be teaching in business classes, basically at universities. Your work is so profound and such a big deal, but inside of all that, you are a business leader. I mean, at the end of the day, your skill set would transfer perfectly into all kinds of different things. And that's what I want to get out of you for our listeners to hear. Like, he's a good guy. He leads with faith. He tells people what he's going to do, and he does it, shows up consistently over time, and talks to both sides of the aisle. Yeah. There's a formula which you have mastered.
Hey team, are you looking to elevate your golf game year-round? Nashville City Golf, located within the Nashville City Club at 200 2nd Avenue South, offers a premier indoor golfing experience right in the heart of downtown. With over 350 real-world courses available on state-of-the-art TrackMan.io simulators, you can challenge yourself on some of the world's most renowned fairways without leaving the city. Whether you're a seasoned golfer or just starting out, our facility caters to all skill levels. Features of the club include TrackMan.io performance tracking, an adjustable swing stage, indoor putting, and great upscale lounge and food and beverage, as well as PGA instruction right on site. Nashville City Golf isn't just about swinging a club, it's about experiencing a revolution in golf practice and entertainment. Our cutting-edge features elevate your game and create an unforgettable experience. We offer flexible membership options to suit your needs, as well as booking for individual sessions. Ready to tee off? Visit NashvilleCityGolf.com to learn more about memberships, book a session, or schedule a lesson with one of our PGA instructors. Elevate your game at Nashville City Golf, where the best of golf meets the best of Nashville.
Let's talk about that book a little bit. That title of your book is really a metaphor for obedience and danger. What does running to the fire mean to you personally? What does that mean?
To run wherever the danger is, wherever people are going away from. That's where I want to go to, because that's where the greatest need is. And, a recent example was in February of 2022, when the Ukraine war started. I went from Poland into Ukraine about 2 days after the attack happened, and there were literally millions of people coming out, and I felt like a fish trying to swim upstream against all the other fish. And but whatever was driving those people away, I always know there are people behind them. There's a circumstance back there, and I want to get as close to that circumstance because that's where the heat of need is going to have its greatest intensity. And it's also where you can be the most effective. The closer that you can get to the fire, you understand the dynamics better, you know who the players are, you know where the needs are, and you can think about how to more strategically have a broader impact.
Another, for team out there listening, another brilliant thing. We always talk about when there's conflict in a business sense, run straight to the conflict. And so many people are conflict averse because they're making up stories that may or may not be true, but usually you run to it so you can start a solve. And your example A of run straight into it. And from a business where the stakes may not be as high as what you're doing, we still try to teach, run straight to the conflict. Don't avoid it. Get right in there.
Well, Chris, being in the family well drilling business, that means I didn't know it at the time, but I was developing leadership skills, right? How to lead 3 or 4 guys, and then it was how to lead 20 guys, and then how to lead the business by where you're searching for work. But as an entrepreneur, you're built to take chances. And every day that you open your door and you pick up your phone, you're going to take a chance because you're always making a decision. I'm going to do this thing or I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to invest my money over here. I'm going to invest my money over there. Those same lessons apply to what I do today. It's not entrepreneurial like in the way that we're trying to make money, but you have a resource and you have to make a decision about where to put the resource. Your resource is money, it's materials, it's human beings, and you have to take chances. And if you're not willing to take a chance in life, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just not going to do it. And when you make that chance, when you step out in leadership, what I can personally say, it becomes lonely because you're the one that made the decision. And if there's a negative consequence, you're going to have to carry that burden. Mm-hmm. But you will learn from that decision. And if the decision goes well, you're still going to learn. And but you've got to be willing to take the chances and use good judgment.
Yeah, and that another powerful lesson, right? Not everyone's built for that. But entrepreneurs tend to not be risk averse and will take chances. And to your point, you're going to learn. You're going to learn when it's good, and you're going to probably learn more when it doesn't go right. And that lonely at the top thing is a real thing. How do you deal with that? Like because when you do get to the top tip of that spear, and you're the tip of the spear in so many situations, it can get lonely. And how do you draw on what's your support system like? Who's supporting you?
Well, I'm a strong Christian. And so I have a community of supporters, a fellowship through my friends, through my coworkers, through my church. And that's my primary. I've got family. My wife passed away about 8 years ago. So she was, central part of my core support team. And that's been and continues to be a major adjustment for me. But when I'm alone, I have to live with the benefits and the consequences of the decisions that I've made that day. And they're far-reaching decisions that affect, I'm not trying to be boastful or exaggerating, but, the things that we're doing affect hundreds of thousands of people's lives. And from a Christian perspective, the sharing of the gospel that Jesus Christ came and died for us, now you're talking about eternity. So when you're thinking about the resource that you have, it's a weightier decision. Are we using that resource of sharing the gospel, of reaching people, running to the fire and helping in Jesus' name? That's what the metaphor means. Are we using that wisely? And I often draw comparisons to that in the Bible. There's a parable about the master who went away and he left talents, coins with his servants. And he came back One guy had taken the 5 and multiplied it to 10, and he said, that's great. One guy had taken the 2 and multiplied it to 5, and the other guy took the 2 and buried it, gave him his coins back, and he said, get away from me. I don't want to be that guy. I want to multiply what I feel like God has blessed us to be able to do. And so there's another level of responsibility in that, but it's not always easy. Sometimes you need thick skin.
Thick skin and short memory. We use that.
I like that.
We use that around here. Thick skin, short memory.
Yeah.
Amazing. Let's talk about the book a little bit more or just the work in general. In business podcast context, for example, profit is often a monetary thing or number of listeners or whatever. But for you, what's the equivalent? How are you measuring success? Is it life saved? Is it efficient stewardship? Is it long-term community impact? What does victory look like for you?
Saving lives and reducing suffering and doing it in Jesus' name. That's what victory looks like. Were we effective? Were we accurate in what we were doing? Did we make some mistakes? Do we need to bat 1,000? Is that what we want to do? You know, if I could bat 425, I'd be making $20 million a year or something playing baseball. And I generally say that I want to bat 600 or 700.
Okay.
And so that not all of my decisions are going to be accurate. I want to be a good steward, but I also don't want to see the team members be stingy. We didn't come with a spirit of stinginess. We came with a spirit of generosity to help people in the ditches of life. And I want to see effectiveness in that. And so that's sort of what drives me in that direction. The metrics, every time that we have a response, we always come up with metrics, so we've got benchmarks, how many pieces.
What are they? Yeah. Talk about some of those a little bit.
Well, how much water you're delivering to a family per day, how many liters, how many square meters their temporary shelter has, how many calories a day they're getting in their diet when you're doing the food distribution. Is there fraud in the distribution among the beneficiaries? Do you have a good beneficiary registration list? And then in the medical side, how many patients did we see? How many surgeries? How many babies were delivered? So there's a whole network. In fact, we've got a team with probably 20 or 25 people on it that are just technical advisors, and they help us to design the metrics to keep us on track. But we see all of that as, the quality of our work is the platform of our witness. We bring all of that back to that same ethos, and but at the same time, I don't want the metrics to become so tight that we can't breathe, that we can't flex our wings and get air under them so that we can go farther, so that we can do more, so we can reach more people, so we can get closer to the fire. And that's some of I've never even articulated these things before, so I'm just sort of making this up and sharing it with you right now, but it's what's in my head.
Well, you're doing great. We talk about that a lot, and I work with a lot of highly creative entrepreneurs, and sometimes they're so good at their craft and they don't care a lot about metrics. And we always talk about if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And this wonderful work that you're out there doing, team out there listening, while he's leading with big headline, you can see this fella and his team every single day on the news. You know what they are and what they're up to. But behind all that is an engine that's going, are we winning? Are we batting 600? And I love the way you said we have metrics, and I'm going to paraphrase you a little, but it doesn't sound like those metrics are at the cost of paralyzation for not to try new things or maybe swing for the fences. Because you said a lot in your last little passage there. Leadership does not mean perfect. It means movement. It means high-fiving when you're doing it right or readjusting when something goes wrong. And measuring it, yes, you got to measure it, but we're not a slave to the number, right?
Yeah. In the book, it's a memoir of 37 years of experience working with Samaritan's Purse. And it's some of the highlight stories that I've encountered. But many of these subjects are covered in the book because I was faced with decisions that I had to make where people's lives were in the balance, where I was in a circumstance that I hadn't thought that I was going to get in. Some of them were tough, hard circumstances. And so I just I'm plugging my book now. And but I found when I sat down and wrote those stories out, when I brought them together and conceptualized them and looked back into records and used my memory, it's like, wow, that is a pretty amazing plan, a travel road that I've gone down there. And so I think that it actually, now that I'm thinking about it from a leadership perspective, I think there's a lot of good examples in there. I was just wanting to share what God has done in my life and be a witness, but hearing
you've got a leadership book, Ken. You've got a wonderful journey memoir of your 37 years at Samaritan's Purse, disguised as a leadership book. And that was a lot of our interest in talking with you today, because leadership comes in so many shapes, sizes, forms, but your basic principles of blocking and tackling over these last 36 years, that's what has, and your faith, those are the things that have propelled you to be so successful. And you've got leadership lessons abound sitting in that book.
Well, so
this is going to be, and we'll do a final plug in a little bit out there, team, but this is a book you definitely need to go pick up. And there's so many good stories, but those things don't happen by themselves, and they happen with resolute determination and consistency, which you have done for decades. So good on you.
If I was given advice, and I do give advice to people, they'll come around, young guys, hey, they want to sit with me or they want to work with me, this is marking my age. When they'll come to me and they'll say, well, when I look around, I want to work with you because you have the most experience. And what they're really saying is, we need to get that out of you before you die. That's real. They don't want to say it that way, but that's what they're thinking.
I hope you take that as a compliment.
Yeah, it's fine. And I'm happy to share with people. But listen, what I've experienced has come as a blessing from the Lord. And it's originated, really, my parents were hardworking, and they instilled hardworking ethics in me, like don't ever ask for a raise. My mother, don't ever ask for a raise. My mother, no matter what happens, son, get a job, keep working. And those things have never, my father-in-law, the well driller, he had a second grade education, taught himself how to read and write. When he was 16, he lied, said he was 17, joined the Army, went and fought in Korea. And he sent me out one day to fix a pump. And the door was locked in the guy's basement. And I came back and I said, I couldn't get in. I was probably 18 or 19 years old. And he said, I didn't send you out there to come back and tell me the door was locked. I sent you out there to fix the pump. Now you go back and finish the job. That's just drilled in my mind. And that theme, finish the job, is important. And I stick on those principles. I tell those to my staff members. Finish the job. Is the job finished? Did you do a good job? So I'm big on those fundamentals, and I have found they work really good.
Hey team, are you looking to elevate your professional and personal life in the heart of Nashville? Well, since 1957, the Nashville City Club has been the city's premier private membership club, offering an exceptional experience in fine dining, networking, and memorable events. As a member, you'll enjoy top-tier networking opportunities, business development events, mentoring programs, social mixers, and signature holiday celebrations. The club's private dining room serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a professional yet relaxed environment featuring menus crafted by Nashville's top culinary professionals. Members enjoy personalized concierge services, including bookings for concerts, events, sports, and dining reservations. Additionally, the club offers discounted private event spaces for personal and professional gatherings, accommodating over 200 guests at a time. We are located at 200 South 2nd Avenue. The Nashville City Club provides a versatile environment that serves as both a home away from home and an extension of your office. The warmth of the staff, the energy of the city, and the pride of the community are felt instantly upon arriving. Join us for this thriving community of Nashville's most respected and accomplished citizens. Apply for membership today and experience the unparalleled benefits the Nashville City Club has to offer. For more information or to start your application, visit nashvillecity.com or email info@nashvillecity.com.
I have a similar story. I was raised with a very tough, smart mother, very same way. And my dad too, 8th grade education, bootstrapped it up. And sometimes I think some of these younger generations, they don't, not, that's a gross general statement, but don't have that same grit experience that we were lucky enough to have by parents that didn't let us have a handout, that forced us to do the right thing and learn skill set early and stick with it and all that, which is what I want to ask you next. So you write in the book about continuing to go when things didn't make sense or staying around wasn't safe. Talk to us a little bit about, and I think I'm trying to make a parallel in the business world where it may not be as, the consequences may not be as great, but entrepreneurs still get scared and stick around or need to stick around when things don't feel right, and they have to lean into faith at some point. How did you learn to trust God's leading in difficult moments where it may have been nervous or not the safest thing to do to stick around, but you did it anyway? That had to be a higher calling than you just saying, I'm going to go be a good guy.
It was a much higher calling. So I went to Ethiopia in 1987 to do an assessment at Franklin's request. And I had left the family business. I was working for a company down in South Carolina. And when I came back in the airplane, I wrote out a business plan. This is the machine you need. This is the stuff you need, blah, blah, blah. This is how you organize it. This is what it's going to cost you. And I gave him that plan when I got back to Boone. And he looked at it for maybe 20 seconds, and he looked over the top of it. And he said, I don't think it's a coincidence that you and I have been brought together. And in stressful and, in grief in my life and when I've been under threat and he's called me. We've gotten contact through, and I'm somewhere where I can't get out. He said, you remember when I told you that it wasn't an accident? The point is that there aren't coincidences in God's plan. And the people that we meet in life are divine appointments. And if you have that feeling, if you have that faith, then that faith also extends that the circumstance that I'm in right now is not an accident. And God does not promise us that we won't have pain and suffering in our lives. What he promises us, I will be with you. So after I gave that paper to Franklin, he said, will you go to Ethiopia? Will you move there? Will you do this program? Well, my mind wasn't there. I'd prayed for 2 years. I stopped praying about that, and I had taken another job, got out of the family business. He started calling me every week down in South Carolina. Are you praying about it? And I went, yeah, I'm praying about it. No, I'm serious. Now, are you praying about it? So finally, I said, I will commit it to prayer. And I did. And I prayed through the scriptures, particularly when God called Moses and God called Jonah. And those, I would encourage your listeners to go look those up. They're very good stories. I didn't want God's wrath on me, but my wife didn't want to go. This is important. My wife didn't want to go. She looked at me again and she says, you have lost your mind. I am not going to Africa. We have a home. We live in Boone. We have 2 children. One's in high school. I'm not going to Africa. And so one Friday, Franklin called me, and I was in Jackson, South Carolina at the office. And he said, are you praying about it? I said, yes. He said, what do you think God's calling you to do? And I said, I feel like God is calling me to go, but he's not calling my wife. And it makes me think I'm misinterpreting something. And he said, that's not what I asked you. What I ask you is, what do you think God's calling you to do? Can I pray for you? And I said, yes. And in that prayer, in that little 20 or 30 second prayer, I felt an inner deep peace come in me. And I heard, I'm not a Pentecostal, but I'm just telling you, I heard in my heart, trust me. And when Franklin said amen, with no consultation to anybody, I said, I will be there in 2 weeks. Went right out the door and gave my notice. I flew home that weekend, told my wife, and in 46 and a half years of marriage, she didn't speak to me for 3 days. She didn't say anything. It was the most awkward feeling in my life. She wasn't going to go, but God moved in her heart within the next 2 months that she would come along. And she did come, and it changed our entire lives. So our 2 sons, and we were over there for 3 years. And the oldest son was just there that first year, and he came back and went to university, graduated from high school there. But that concept of trust me. So when I find myself in hard places, when I need to go further and push in harder, I hear that trust me has never gone away. And so, when I'm signing books, trust him. I believe God is worthy. I believe you can trust him, and you have to put your trust in him. And what that means, trusting, is, you've seen the exercise where you fall and your partner catches you. God's got you. And so that's my philosophy on that. Trust him.
How refreshing. And I'm a little bit off topic here, but it feels like to me, and you tell me if you've got any insight on this, it feels to me like the younger generation is starting to come back to faith in a way that may have been missing in the masses for the last years or so. It seems to me, at least in my hemisphere, that younger people are searching for, all this social media and things that have been around for the last 10 years creates so many false expectations or false illusions or false things to go for. It feels to me like that younger generation is looking for something deeper and more meaningful and getting their fannies back in church. Do you feel that at all? Or
Yeah, I feel that there is a spiritual hunger in younger people today. I mean, since Charlie Kirk was killed, and, I don't know the mayor of Boone. I don't know who the congressman, I don't even know who the governor of North Carolina is, but I can name great details of people to you in other parts of the world. And I wasn't that familiar with who Charlie Kirk was, but I clearly saw the impact of his death and how people are coming, young people, they're filling stadiums and with praise and worship, and they're hungry for something of a deep spiritual nature. And I'm glad that they are. That's what I'm saying. I'm glad that they are. So yes, I agree with your observation.
Yeah, I even think there's a business lesson in that. Like entrepreneurs have to do scary things, and at the end of the day, no matter how much basic blocking, tackling, doing by the book, at the end of the day, you need a faith. You need a faith in something that it's going to be all right. That God's got your back. Whatever happens. You can deal with it and move, dust it off, and get back up and keep going.
Yes, yeah, and Charlie Kirk had that.
Right.
He had a faith, and he was fearless. He didn't have any fear, and it was a horrible tragedy that happened, and he's going to be missed. But God will use that, and his wife is standing up as a champion and carrying on. And I don't know where all that's going to go, but I don't think God will be denied, is what I'm saying.
How can someone live out the message of the Good Samaritan in an ordinary life, day-to-day basis? How do people live out the message of Good Samaritan in their everyday comings and goings?
In the 10th chapter of Luke, Jesus is in the temple, and a man of the law says, Rabbi, how do I have eternal life? And Jesus said, what do the scriptures say? And the man says, love the Lord God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and love your neighbors yourself. Jesus says, well, do that and you'll live. And then the man wanted to test Jesus, so he said, who's my neighbor? This is where you get into the parable of the Good Samaritan. And it's the reason I'm telling this is because it wasn't a formula of being good to go to heaven. It was, the whole thing started with a spiritual question, Rabbi, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And so Jesus tells the story of a man who's going down the road. Robbers fall on him. They beat him. They strip him. They leave him half dead, and he's in the ditch. 2 other religious people the day went around him. The Samaritan, who's a social outcast, lower caste, went to him. So he took mercy on him. That's what Scripture says. He took mercy on him. He went to him. He bandaged his wounds. He put him on the donkey. He took him to an inn. He stayed with him. And then the next day, he asked the innkeeper, take care of him. Here's 2 coins. I'll pay you more if I owe you when I come back. So what he did for that man, Chris, he gave him emergency medical assistance. Then he provided emergency logistics. Then he gave him emergency shelter. Then he gave him emergency food, emergency water, and emergency non-food items. He was naked. He would have gotten a blanket or a robe. So metaphorically, we can do those things across the street with our neighbors. We can do those things on the other side of the state. We could do those things where a hurricane hits, or a tornado, or a war, or a famine, or a plague. We can do those things. And as Christians, that's like fruit of the Spirit to do those things. And so honestly, sometimes it can be harder to go next door to your neighbor and say, how are you? Can I mow your yard? Or I'm sorry for your loss, or sit with them, or whatever. It can be harder to do that than it can be to get in an airplane and fly 10,000 miles or to drive to Arkansas after a tornado. There's all kinds of ways that we can show the love of Christ. And I think that Christians are called to do that in whatever ways are presented to us. You know, James, in the book of James, the Scripture says, show me faith without works. It's hollow, like a clanging bell. So
wow.
we're called to do it. That's it. That's who we are. That's what we do.
Team, I'm telling you, you gotta go get this book, Running to the Fire. This Ken is full of unbelievable wisdom and experience. And as wonderful as the story is through Samaritan's Purse and the work that he has done, if you're just selfish enough to want business lessons out of that, you were giving a master class in your leadership experience tied to the great work that you've done. How do people from here, how do people connect with you? How do people find the book? How do folks get engaged with Samaritan Purse?
Well, Samaritan's Purse, we have this thing called a website, and it is SamaritansPurse.org, and there's no apostrophe, but it's all one word. And I have Facebook, Ken Isaac's author page, and that's just on the book part. And the book can be bought at the world's largest book retailer, Amazon.com, and type in Running to the Fire, and it'll pop up there. And I would ask that if people order the book, if they read the book, if they would be so kind and consider to go back and make a review. That's extremely important. This is the first book that I've written. And the other thing that I would say is that it's available on Audible. And I read it myself, which was really an emotional experience for me. I lived it. I wrote it, and I'm reading it, and it's like the emotion of these past events comes back up in me. So anyway, I've gotten a lot of compliments about that, and I think a lot of interest in it. So I'm just letting people know that it's available there too.
Well, that had to be an amazing journey for you. I mean, what an exhale, because we haven't spent time together, but my guess would be is that you were on the go nonstop from one thing to the next and may not have great time to reflect. And I bet going through the book process was a lot of that reflection and memory and experience time. I can absolutely see where that would be an emotional journey.
Yeah. And my voice breaks if you listen to it on Audible. It's like you can clearly hear the emotion. So the guy that was helping me do the read it, and record it, the first time that happened, I said, "Do you want me to do that over?" And he said, "Please promise me you will never change that." And so I just read it, and the book is a testimony to what God has done, Chris. That's the thing that's important. I have not been blessed to drive the bus, but I've gotten a really good seat on it. And I feel like God is driving the bus, and he's letting me have a window seat, and I've got to see a lot of things in the world. And I want people to know that there's a world out there. And I also want them to know that based off of my experience, they can trust God. He's worthy. And then there's all these little life lessons that you're pulling out of me right now. So I'm going to read more about that and think about it. I just haven't thought about it from that perspective so much.
Well, I appreciate it. It has been an honor to visit with you and learn more about you and all the wonderful things that you've done. And team, when you're listening out there and reflecting back on this episode in our lanes of people, self, profit, and self, Ken talked a lot about leading with compassion, especially through adversity, clarity and compassion. From the sales standpoint, communicating the mission clearly. He dove into that. Like, what does success look like? How are we measuring ourselves? He talked about how do we measure the profit, and that would be stewardship and impact on the lives that and communities that he and his team impact on a daily basis. And then the self part, the inner resilience and faith. He has been knocked in the teeth. He lost the love of his life. His support system went down. He's made very difficult decisions in life and been able to, through his faith and grit, shake it off, get up and keep going. And that is an entrepreneur's journey, whether you call yourself that or not. That's it. And I'm so appreciative of our time together and of your story.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. You know, podcast, I didn't really know what that word meant. And I wrote the book and they said, you got to get on podcast. And so I am honored. I really am. I'm thrilled to be on your podcast. And you've got quite a following. I looked you up and read about you. So congratulations on your show. And I hope that you have, this is your most watched podcast so far.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, man, I certainly hope our paths cross at some point. And I'm honored to have had you today, and I appreciate you a bunch.
If you come to Boone to visit your friend, come to Samaritan's Purse. I'll give you a tour. We'll have lunch.
And we are thinking about it in the spring of next year. So I'm going to hold you to that if that's okay.
That sounds great, Chris. Thank you so much.
Awesome, team. That'll be a wrap for today. Go check out the podcast. Tell all your friends. This one's going to have such impact on so many of us. And we'll see you next time.
That's it for today. Thanks for being here. I hope something in this conversation sparked a new idea or gave you a little clarity. We'll be back next week to keep digging into what it means to lead well, grow smart, and build something that lasts. Until then, stay well coached.